Okay, our next speaker is known to exude upbeatism, and you'll find out what that is as she gives her presentation. Our next speaker is Dena Botbyl. Dena is a self-development blogger from northern New Jersey. Writing her blog, we're seekers of light, self-improvement junkies, lovers, dreamers, and even cynics are all welcome. In 2006, Dena began a quest to change her own life and the lives of others. She focused on her core passions, helping people to live the lives of their dreams and educating people about the urgency of the environment and conservation. Through her writing and speaking, Dena spreads a message of hope and light. So please welcome Dena Botbyl.
Thank you so much, Michelle. My talk today is called Living and Leading with Passion, and it sounds like there's already been some discussion today about passion, so I'm really excited to add to that discussion. I'd like to start by saying thank you. I know most people close by saying thank you, but I want to say thank you to the Mid-Atlantic Council for inviting me to be here. Thank you, Michelle, for all of your help in my preparation. And I also want to thank everyone who's in the room today. Thank you for being here. I know there's a lot of other places that you could be, but the fact that you've chosen to be here says something really important about each of you. And so thank you for giving me your attention for a little while. I want to start by sharing a story about a study that was conducted at a university a few years ago. And what they did was they took several students and they brought them into a sleep study center. Every night they let these students go to sleep and they were hooked up to a brain activity machine. And the students would fall asleep, and when the students were sleeping, the machine would notify the people conducting the study that the student was asleep. Then, when the student started to dream, the machine would again notify those people that the student was then dreaming. And as soon as the student started to dream, they would wake that student up. And so then they would let the student go back to sleep until he or she started dreaming. And as soon as they started dreaming, they would wake them up again. Now, after one night of this sort of treatment, the students were feeling very agitated and irritated the next day. They did this again the following night, and the same exact thing. The students were allowed to sleep, but as soon as they started to dream, they were woken up. That day, the students were really angry, really anxious, really unable to perform. And the people who were conducting the study realized that these students were headed for some serious psychological problems if this continued. So they terminated the study. But what the study did prove is that when we are asleep, we need our dreams. And what I'm here to tell you today is that when we're wide awake, we also really need our dreams. And that's what today's talk is about. It's about passion, it's about living and leading with passion, but it's about pursuing our dreams and identifying our dreams in order to live and lead with passion. So Michelle gave a really great introduction as to who I am. My name is Dena. I am a motivational speaker, a blogger. Who knows what a blog is? Okay, most everyone knows what a blog is. It's just a website that's updated weekly or daily. I'm a blogger, and I'm also a life coach. Now, back in 2006, as Michelle mentioned, I made a really enormous decision to change my life. Back then, you probably wouldn't have recognized me as to who I am today. I was, definitely not healthy physically, and I was also painfully shy. In fact, if you asked me to get up in front of a room of people back then, I probably would have fainted. It was my worst nightmare. Now I love doing it. So when I tell people my story, they ask me, what happened? How did you make this substantial change, really? How did you become healthy and become happy? And what I started doing back then was I started practicing a therapy called CBT, which stands for Cognitive Behavior Therapy. And that's really just a fancy way of saying, change your thoughts, change your life. And that is what I did. I changed my thoughts and thereby changed my life. And in today's talk, I'm going to tell you how exactly I did that and how you can do it too in your own life. I also want to mention IMA quickly, since IMA is the reason that we're all here today. As Jeff mentioned, I worked at the IMA global headquarters in Montreal, New Jersey for several years after college. And while I was there, I got to lead the community support team, which manages all of the chapters and councils. So we had, as Jeff mentioned, over 200 chapters, over 1,500 volunteer leaders, and I had the great pleasure of managing all of those people. So I got to go around to the chapters and speak to them about leadership, about engagement, and while I was speaking to them, I realized I love to go out and speak to people. So that's how I discovered my passion of speaking. I'm still involved with IMA, and I, as Jeff mentioned before, I encourage you all to stay involved with IMA because it's a tremendous organization. I don't have anything to do with accounting. I was an English writing major. I'm really not good at math either, but the community...
Neither of us accountants.
The community that I have become involved with at IMA is something that I'm not willing to give up, regardless of the fact that I'm not an accountant. So in order to tell you about how I changed my thoughts and changed my life, I use an acronym, and it is PAID. It really has nothing to do with money or getting paid, so it was just convenient. It stands for passion, authenticity, intensity, and direction. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of these things. Okay, so the first one is passion. Now, there may be some of you in this room today who are doing things that you hate. And I want to ask you to please stop doing that. There's no reason why you should be doing things that you hate. And if you start to do things that you're passionate about, which we'll talk about today, you'll stop feeling like this guy in this picture here. Okay? I want to go back to the dream study for a second that I talked about, because as I mentioned, our dreams are critical to our happiness. As much as we need to dream when we're asleep, we need to have those same dreams when we're awake. And if we can live passionately and lead passionately, we can accomplish that. So the number one question that I get from people when I start talking about passion is, well, what is my passion? Not mine, but who's asking the question. And they say to me, I really don't know what I'm passionate about. So I've developed, through some research and through working with some colleagues, a pretty simple way of determining what your passion is, and I call it the billion-dollar question. So all you have to do is ask yourself, if I woke up tomorrow and found that I had $1 billion in my bank account, no strings attached, it's yours, what would I want to do every single day for the rest of my life? Now, responsibility is out of the picture, money is out of the picture. What do I want to do now that I can do whatever I want? And when you can answer that question, you can then discover what you're really passionate about.